Hello there, my name is Aaron Moss, and this is the Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour, presented by Head Speaks. This is an hour-ish long podcast where we'll talk about the Will Payton Starman comic and the Mark Shaw Manhunter comic from the late 80s, early 90s. We'll talk about every appearance of these two great characters. If you've never read them or haven't read them in a while, this may be a good time to explore these issues. Now, let's get started with our first comic.
Hey, Starhunters, Brother Ed here, looking at episode 48 of the Starman Adventure Show. Today we're going to be looking at issue 42, and this is the final 4-part story arc of the Starman series. 4 more episodes, counting this one to go, and we'll reach the end of the series. I think after this, I will do probably an episode or two on the Eclipso Within, or whatever it is, the annual crossover thing where Starman, again, spoilers, it has Starman in it. We'll leave it at that. It has Starman in it. And then I'll do an episode or two briefly on the next Starman series, just briefly touching on the Will Payton appearances over there. So, sadly, we're coming to the end of this show. Probably this is 4 episodes, probably the next 6 to 8 months. By the end of the year, we should be finished up with this podcast. I'll say it again. I'm going to say it now, though. Thank you all that's been listening in, anyone that's been joining me for this journey and that's still here. But we'll talk more about that later on. Let's go and get started with today's episode. Today, we're looking at issue 48. I'm sorry. This is episode 48, looking at issue 42 of Starman. Cover date, January of 1992. The on-sale date, November the 26th, 1991. The cover price, $1. The title is Sunspots. Writer, Len Straczynski. Penciler, John Calamie and Andy Smith. The inkers were Roy Richardson and Alan Kupperberg. The letterer, Robert M. Pignata. Colorist, Tom J. McGraw. The cover was done by Mike Mignola, and the editor was, a Facebook friend of mine, Paul Kupperberg. Great guy. Great writer, great creator, just a great person all around. I'm going to see if I get him on before the end of the show to talk about his editing duties on this book, if he remembers. It's been so long ago. But anyways, let's go and get started with the book. Actually, we're going to look at the cover first, like we normally do. So the cover of this one, it's a lot of shadows, a lot of dark colors on it. At the very top it says Star Shadows Part 1. We get our Starman logo. Below that it says Eclipso casts a shadow of doom over Starman. And then we get Starman kind of surprised with Bruce Gordon, and behind him stands Eclipso overshadowing everything. Again, more of a symbolic cover since Eclipso and Bruce Gordon basically usually kind of share the same body or the space or whatever, however it works with them. It's a Mike Mignola cover. For the record, I'm not a huge Mike Mignola fan. I know he's popular on Hellboy, and that's fine work on that. But as I've said here and elsewhere, for my superhero books, I normally prefer your standard 4-color superhero, more traditional artwork. Mike Mignola, whatever. He has a very stylized artwork. To me, it comes across as very rough and unfinished. I know that's just the style it is. From what I understand, people think he's a great artist. I think he's decent. I just don't care, for the most part, for this. It's not necessarily unfinished, but the rough drawings he does. I think it might be better for me over on Suicide Squad, because that's more of that kind of book. But here, I'm not a huge fan of this cover. I can see how people could like it, but for me, it's, on a scale of 1 to 5, it's probably a 2.5 or a 3. And that's pushing. That's because it's Starman. I don't know, it's very rough. Again, I say rough. To me, it looks rough. I don't want to say unfinished. That's really the wrong word. It's just very stylistic, heavy inks, which I'm not normally a fan of. I do like the shadows in the background and casting the red glow on the rest of the room. Some yellow at the bottom. I mean, that looks nice. But as far as artwork itself, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this. And I'm glad that this art style or artwork didn't carry over to the book itself. Because to me, that would bring the book down. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about this cover. Again, no offense to Mike Mignola, but not a fan of his work. And it shows on here, in my opinion. So, and I have to relook. I forget if he does the other covers of this run, of this storyline. But yeah, I'm not happy with the way this cover comes out. It's just too... And I want to keep saying the word rough, but again, it's not necessarily unfinished rough. It's just the way the pencils are. If I think about it, I'll post it on the website or on the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Headcast Network. I'll throw it on there. Probably when I release this episode, it'll be on there. I need to get my blog set up on my webpage so I can post things like this there also. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you guys fans of Mike Mignola work? Do you guys like this cover here? Let me know. Send me an email to starman@headspeaks.com. Again, starman@headspeaks.com. But enough about the cover. Let's move on to the actual book itself. The first issue of this, I'm going to say I like it. It starts off, it's got Will, our Starman, Star Shadows Part 1, Sunspots, and he's saying, what's so funny is his face changing shapes between Starman and I don't know who it's supposed to be. It's some stereotypical Italian, I would say. It's got dark hair, a mustache on one side of the face, a spotty beard. It's an interesting start to the issue. And again, he's saying, what's so funny? Is his face doing some weird morphing shape? And then we find out we've kind of picked up for the end of last issue where he's telling Carol who he really is. And Will doesn't realize that his face is morphing. And I always thought, because normally when he does it, he's controlling it. So I always thought he could feel it morphing. But from what it shows here, it doesn't look like he's really controlling it. Well, he's not controlling it, but it looks like he can't feel it. He doesn't realize his face is changing shapes. And he looks in the mirror and sees that his face is changing shapes on its own. And he smashes the mirror and he's all, stop! Very angrily, very, very, I don't know, a lot of anger going on here. And Carol says, it wasn't a joke? You are Starman? And Carol starts putting, together all his disappearances, all the missing assignments. He's like, you're off being a superhero, mostly. Sometimes I just screwed up. And Carol's like, I thought it was me, that you just didn't want to work for me or couldn't work with me. And she, of course not. And he kind of puts his arm around her shoulder and leans in. And she turns around. It looks like he's about ready to kiss him. As all of a sudden he feels his powers flaring up. He's like, oh, here I go again. He kind of steps away as he flares up. And he says he's been having problems with his powers. It's too strong sometimes. I may have to go back and look through the last couple of issues because I don't really recall him losing control of his powers over the last couple of issues. But throughout this issue, he makes mention that he's been kind of losing controls of it. And I don't really recall seeing that so much, but maybe I just overlooked that. But I do like, well, I sort of like, we'll get to that more later on in the story, that it looks like maybe they're actually getting close because he's kind of like got holding her shoulders, kind of like in an embrace, and she kind of turns around. It looks like they're about ready to kiss before his powers start flaring up. And that's what I've been saying, is that they need to get together, because I like Carol and Will as a item, personally. Again, I'm not one of these guys that I can't think of the word now, but where they match people up. But I do like the concept of Will and Carol hooking up. So, but again, as we'll talk about later in the issue, that gets kind of blown out of the water. But in here at the bottom of page 4, he kind of halfway down, and then the last couple panels, he kind of explodes, and just there's a big burn mark in the middle of the floor where he's at. And he talks how he's able to barely able to keep the temperature down. I do like the artwork in here, as I mentioned previously. I like that Mignola didn't do the artwork in this book, because again, not a fan of his artwork, but I'm enjoying this artwork. I think that, who is it? John Calumet and Andrew Smith is the pencilers, and Roy Richardson, and Alan Kupperberg is the inker, did a fantastic job on this. I'm not sure who did which section, but honestly, I can't I can't really tell any difference for the most part as I'm looking through here between the artwork. I'm just looking, and there may be the first couple pages actually do look a little. Will looks a little different than he does throughout the rest of the book. But yeah, I'm not sure who did which pages. But I'm enjoying the artwork in this book, and for the most part, it's relatively. I don't want to say seamless, but it's seamless. I can't tell. Again, the art is. And something you want, you don't want a big change in the art style normally. You want the art to flow from one panel to the next, one page to the next, because if you have different styles of artwork, it's going to be rather jarring. So I think that the artist did a good job working in tandem on this. Again, I don't know how the duties was handled as far as, did they work together, or did one do part of the book and the rest do the other and they put together? I don't know, but it's relatively seamless. Then again, I'm terrible at art. I'm sure if I had Jared on here, he could actually point out the differences, and he could probably say, well, this person did this and this person did this, and you're an idiot, Aaron, you should know this. But and I do so Will or Starman runs out of the room. I gotta get going, I gotta get some help, and Carol falls about, Will, Starman, I don't care what name or face he's got, he still acts like Will Payton. So I do like that, Carol. He's Will Payton. I don't care who he is. He's Will Payton. But that's fantastic. As Will's flying away, we see his face is still changing shapes. And we cut over to Kitty Lab with some guy with a blonde crew cut in a lab coat. And somehow, she's got some guy named Bruce, which, if you know the character, this is Bruce Gordon, a.k.a. Calypso. Calypso, I think he's a Batman villain, or he's appeared elsewhere before in the past. I believe that this is my first appearance, or my first encounter with Calypso when I started reading the comics, was in this book, I want to say. But I knew I've seen pictures of him, and I think I've heard of him before this. But when I first started reading this was really, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was my first encounter with Eclipso. I know he showed up over in Action Comics Weekly before this, but I wasn't reading that book. I'd bought Action Comics, and I'm not sure if I talked about it here or not, but I stopped when it became Action Comics Weekly because I didn't want an anthology series at that time. And again, my main interest was Superman. It was like a couple pages of Superman every month. I just wasn't in for it that. So I kind of skipped that series. I may go back and read it now that it's over with, and I've heard some good stuff about it. But so I missed out Eclipso in there. So I want to say it's my first dealings with Eclipso in the DC Comics. But Bruce says that the Starman stellar energy seems to be changing, evolving. And as he's saying this, Starman comes crashing into the building. And then here at the bottom of page 5, he looks like an old man. The next page, again, his powers are still acting up. He's changing skin color and shape and growing facial hair. Kitty tells him he's been radiating heat and light on and off. And here, as I've been talking about this, and as I'm actually paying a little more attention, like I said, I can, and maybe it's just like a placebo type effect, or is my mind making me think it is? But now that we're in Kitty's lab, I do see that Will looks a little different, Starman looks a little different than he did previously. Not a noticeable amount, but the artwork looks a little bit different now that I'm looking at it to see how the art looks. So, but yeah, it's still good artwork, don't get me wrong. It's just something I say here on the top of page 7, Bruce's face looks a little off. Starman keeps shifting faces, so it's hard to tell with him. But as he's talking, he's reminiscing when he said this power started happening when he fought Colonel Computron. And again, something I love. Thank you, Paul. There's editor's notes in here telling this is referring to Starman 36 and 37. And the next one says Starman 38. Paul, still keeping the record straight. And I appreciate that, Paul. Over the years, that seemed to become a lost art form of referring to issue numbers. And then when it came back, they would generally refer to trade paperbacks instead of the actual issues. So I I like this where and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I really enjoy when they reference a previous issue and they refer to the actual issues. Because again, I was picking up Starman, so I had these issues. But if I want to go back and look at this, kind of points me in the right direction. Or if I had been new to Starman and I just started this story arc, sadly it's the last one, but that's on the story entirely. If I want to go back and find these stories, this tells me which issues to look at instead of trying to find a trade paperback. So again, as a old-time floppy reader, I appreciate this. But as far as 38, he said it started getting worse after he got blasted by some guy who thought he was Achilles. And again, 38, if I'm not mistaken, that was the War of the Gods crossover. So I guess Will doesn't realize that it was actually the gods. Again, he didn't have a whole lot over in that War of the Gods crossover storyline. But I thought maybe somewhere along the way he picked up that it was actually really gods, because Wonder Woman was involved, Captain Marvel. So I thought most of the heroes knew that these were actually gods battling. But here he refers to it as, it started getting worse after I got blasted with some sort of lightning while fighting a guy who thought he was Achilles. And he finally gets his face straightened out. He's like, I never did find out what happened to that guy. But I guess it had something to do with all the War of the Gods. And so he gets mentioned here that it's War of the Gods. So I don't know why he's doubting it was Achilles. Again, I mean, he's gotten blasted by a space laser. Yes, originally on Earth, but it gave him superpowers. He's friends. Yeah, I was going to say in quotes, but he's friends with Superman, an alien from another planet. He's met Wonder Woman, a literal god, or created by God. She eventually becomes a god or a goddess herself. He's interactive, not mistaken, with Captain Marvel, who, again, gets his powers from God. So I don't know why he's doubting that it was indeed a god. And I paused my recording from us to go back and look at the previous issues. And yeah, unless I'm missing something, I looked at issues 36 and 37, and I didn't see any references in there to powers going out of control or changing. 38, there was a bit of a reference to it, and he thought his powers were going out of control. But it was got a bit of lightning, and I assumed it was the dealing with the whole War of the Gods thing. Again, I looked through the next couple issues, and I didn't really see anything there where Len referred to his powers going out of control or losing control of them. So I don't know if it wasn't his intention, he just didn't get it across, or maybe I'm missing it. Hey, Starhunters, take a look, see what you think. Take a look at the last few issues, 36 up to now, and see if I'm missing something. Other than 38, when he got hit by lightning and his powers were overcharged, he said, and he went to Kitty, and then he flew off to the War of the Gods whole thing. He was there talking about how his powers were getting out of control. They were more powerful now. And he was having problems controlling them. But again, I just racked that to be in War of the Gods, and I didn't really see a reference to it when we got back to the main story. This is the next reference we see to it, which again, I don't... If Len wanted to get us to this point, I think he skipped a step or two, personally. Let me know what you guys think about it, and did I miss it, or is it just kind of, like I said, there was that issue 38 where, he got by lightning, he got more powerful, kind of lose control a little bit, but then the next several issues, everything seemed to be fine till here, so I didn't see him losing control of his powers, except for, when things cause it to happen, but not out of the blue like this. So let me know what you guys think. Again, you can send an email to starman@headspeaks.com. That's starman@headspeaks.com. But back to the story itself. As he's talking about how he was saying that, he never did find out what happened to Achilles. It had something to that War of the Gods. As he's talking, Bruce hooks up, looks like a clip, alligator clip or whatever, to Will's face. What's this for? What are you, are you a doctor or what? He's all, I'm not big on, what is this? I'm not big on being prodded by strangers, as he fries the alligator clip he was holding on to. And again, I admit that was rather rude of Bruce to, I was going to call him Gordon, but to me that makes me think of Commissioner Gordon. And I don't know if they ever did put a link between the two of them in the comics or not. I'm not sure on that, but... Kitty kind of steps in, introduces us. This is Bruce Gordon, one of the leading experts on solar energy. He's like, that's solar, as in stellar energy. I called him in on your case. And Bruce kind of puts his hand on Kitty's hand, like, how could I refuse? Kitty was my best graduate student when I was still teaching. And she talks about how he knows about her being Rampage and helped redesign she used to wear a harness around her neck to control the Rampage powers. They condense it down to more of a necklace looking thing. And again, so just to let us know who she is, she turns the dampener field off, so she turns into Rampage. I like this. She turns into Rampage. Bruce is like, I wish you wouldn't do that. And she turns back on. She turns back into Kitty. Again, it doesn't affect her clothes or anything. It just, she transforms. And then when she turns it off, she transports back with her clothes just fine. And again, I'm enjoying, like I say, and as I'm looking at this, I do see a little bit more of the artwork change a little bit. So maybe it was just the first couple pages, and then the artist changed. I don't know why the artist changed, if it was an intentional thing, or if something happened to the original artist and he wasn't able to complete by the deadline. But I'm sure Paul doesn't remember by this point. This is a book he edited 30 plus years ago, and not one of his most popular. Again, it wasn't popular because it was ending soon, but I'm sure. I don't know. I'll talk to Paul about that and see what he remembers about his work on this. And so again, Bruce asks for about his powers, and he starts describing what he can do. He's like, I'm like a living star. I can fly, radiate light and heat, shoot bolts of energy from my hands, and I'm a man of 1,000 faces. God knows why. And he's saying this, he turns his face into Gorbachev, who at the time was the leader of Russia. He had a very distinctive port wine, I think it's called, birthmark on his forehead. And then he kind of recaps his origin about how he was camping and or backpacking. He went to bed under the stars. He got struck by a laser from a satellite, woke up a month later with superpowers, how he had to fight the power elites. So kind of had to fight. He talked about how he fought bolts and how he's always tried to make the best of a bad situation with what he could from the accident. And he says, I think I made a difference. And I do like here on just these 3 pages, technically 2.5. There's two full page spread showing different scenes. And then there's the top half of this where he's fighting Bolt and saying that he's, tried to do the best he could, kind of recapping his origin. And if, again, this is your first issue of Starman, kind of or if you just started recently, kind of filling you in on who he is, where he came from, what's going on with him. So I like this recap. And again, it was done rather nicely. I like the artwork on it. We get scenes of several members of the Power Elite. Just a very nice recap of Starman and his origin. But as he sat on the bed, saying how he had it was an accident. Gordon's like, you certainly have, Starman, but your creation was no accident. A mistake, perhaps, but not an accident. And then we get the next page. What is this? Page 13. Bruce goes in, talks about his origin, about how he was working on a solar energy project in Africa, and he came into possession of a rare black diamond, which scratched him and basically allowed him to transform into Eclipso. As he says here, an evil creature of pure darkness. I can't control myself when he takes over. As Eclipso, he's done some unspeakable things. And again, we got kind of a recap of Eclipso's origin, and we see him fighting the Green Lantern Corps. I said Batman earlier, and again, I'm thinking that because Bruce Gordon, but no, it looked like he was a Green Lantern villain, which fits, because again, dark energy, dark lights versus Green Lantern's light, it makes sense. I don't know why I was thinking Batman. Well, again, I do, because the whole Gordon name threw me off. But yeah, an Eclipse here. So we see Eclipso fighting the Green Lantern Corps. Nice drawing here on bottom of page 13, where he's fighting Hal and several other Green Lanterns, Katmatu, which was Jon Stewart's old girlfriend, and Arissa, which her and Hal had a thing going for a while, and a couple others I don't recognize from the drawing here because they're being blown around, so it's hard to see who they are. But again, I like these quick recaps because, again, as I said, if I remember right, this was my first encounter with Eclipso. And so this was a nice little origin of who he is and where he came from. I like that when they can, in the story, like I said, it was 1 page, and it gives you everything you need to know about Eclipso, who he is, what he's got going on, and all that. So that was nicely done. I think Lynn did a great job on recapping both Starman and Eclipso in a total like 3.5 pages. So fantastic job. Kudos. he talked about how he can't remember anything too clearly about his times as a Calypso. And so again, we got here on the next page, page 14, he's kind of continuing a little more about Calypso. He talks about he remembers something about his last manifestation, and he thanks Calypso responsible for the power being that made him Starman. And he says, Calypso is very interesting, you Starman, but I can't remember why. And we see him flying up to the satellite that gave Starman his powers and blasting with his black eclipse light and watching as the beam goes down to Earth. And here at bottom page 14, he says it doesn't matter. Calypso's gone. I've destroyed him forever. And Bruce goes on about how he studied the files, but it's really rather not inconsistent, but he doesn't have enough information. There's too much interference from Earth's various emissions, solar emissions, and everything else. Interference. That's where I'm trying to find the right word. Interference. And how they need to get away from all the interference so then you go into outer space. There's radio waves, X-rays, anything else that can mess up. And he explains how he's got his ship. He just needs Starman to help fly him out there. He needs him as a booster. And again, back to the artwork. And maybe this is because we've changed artists again, possibly. But earlier, he's got more kind of not quite a mullet going on, but kind of a mullet. His hair's kind of slicked back a little bit. He's got a longer hair in the back. To me, it's kind of like mulletish. But now that we're on page, see the page number, it's there, but it's kind of hard to read in here. I think it's page 15. His hair changes from being kind of, and it reminds me of a artist, a singer maybe. I can't think what it is. But it changes from this, like say, longer hair in the back, kind of mulletish, kind of, to a regular cut haircut. Again, not to be disparaging to people with mullets and all that, but it's more of a, slick to the side, and it's not that long in the back. So here I can actually see, and as I'm going back and forth between these couple of pages, it's mainly the main difference I see is with Gordon. Will and Kitty pretty much looks the same. But yeah, all of a sudden Gordon changes his appearance. His hairstyle changes, which now that I'm looking at, it's very odd. And I did catch that to begin with, but when I first read it, when I reread it here just the other day for this podcast, but now that I'm actually looking at it, I do see it is kind of jarring that his hair changes like that. I don't know what happened so which leads me to believe that maybe someone stepped in, out of the two sets of artists, one started it and then they were able to finish it. Someone has it step into the middle, or maybe it was done artistic choice. I don't quite know, but it looks like they did them separately without really referencing what the other one was doing. They just had the script and they're going off of. And I'm thinking the artist that did the middle part of the book, maybe not as familiar with Bruce, because from what I remember, Bruce has more ordinary, in quotes, looking hair. He doesn't have this. It kind of reminds me of the action figure they did for the Tim Drake Robin back in the 90s, but not quite as poofed up and blonde. But and then he goes back to normal looking hair after that. So it's just an odd. And I like as they're talking here on the bottom of page 15, Kitty and Starman's in front of a data file for Starman number, what is that, 2530 it looks like, and we see like maybe a heartbeat or some sort of pattern on the background leading up to a figure of a human or a being. I like that in the background, that just little detail was thrown in there. And before they leave, Starman, he stops Kitty, and he's already told her his name, but he's like, just in case you can't fix my powers, there's something I want to show you. Well, I still can. This is the real me. My name is Will Payton. He says that he writes advertising copy. He lives with his mother and sister. I'm not a genius like most of your friends. I'm just an ordinary guy. She's like, oh no, you're quite extraordinary. She kind of comes up, hits his finger like, shh, hushes him. And here on the top of page 17, where I was talking about earlier how it looks like maybe him and Carol are getting together because they were kind of a romantic position there. He leans in, they kiss each other, and she's like, I suppose this is where I say, be careful. And Will's like, no, Kitty, this is where I say, I love you. And kind of just like a pink splash or pinkish splash in the background on a white background of him saying that. Again, I like this panel. I'd rather have him hook up with Carol just because I like Will and Carol. I think they're a cute couple. But I like Kitty too. It's good. I first met Kitty. I think I talked about this previously over in the Superman books. So I do like Kitty. She's a great character. She comes across as a little older for me. Maybe it's the glasses, if it's her hair, what it is. But yeah, Kitty comes across as a little older than Will, which again, not really a problem. But again, I'd rather Will be with Carol, but it is what it is. Not that it's going to matter much more in the next couple of months. But anyway, we'll get to that in the next couple of months. And then we get Starman and Bruce leaving the atmosphere. And as they get into space, so they're flying in space, and Bruce is like, my God, it's beautiful. And yes, it is. But let's sightsee later. Navigate me, Gordon. Where do you mean to go? Oh, yes. Bearing 35 degrees right rotational. And Will's like, what's the heck that mean? Hang a tight right. Oh, okay. So again, I just the little human interest moment there. He's like, Bruce is like, fascinated by the outer space, and Will's like, let's get this show on the road. And so Bruce is giving him like technical coordinates of where to go, and Will's like, what does that mean? Just make a tight right. Oh, you said so to begin with. And so they put him in a gravity neutral position as Will gets the sensor set up, and all of a sudden something hits him. They're in space. Wow. Will's like, wow, what hit us? And here on page 21, we get Lobo floating there, full page spread of Lobo. Where'd you learn to drive, Uranus? Again, Lobo's another one of those characters I love. I first saw him, probably over in Legion, I want to say. The Legion books, and I know he's over in Superman for a bit, on and off. Again, he's on a Space Hog. I love Lobo to an extent. In his own book, again, it was more of a comedy book. It was all right, but I like Lobo when he shows up in other books. He's like a space mercenary, a space biker, a great character, done in quotes right. And again, my opinion, some places done him wrong. Not really done him wrong, but done him like I didn't care for. But overall, and as he's floating here, all of a sudden we see that the Earth is going through an eclipse, or the sun's going behind the moon. There's an eclipse. I don't know if it's an actual eclipse or if it's just the way they're positioned. But either way, there's an eclipse going on, and all of a sudden, Bruce is like, no. And we see Eclipse pulling the helmet off. Yes! To be continued. So again, as they say, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, as apparently Calypso is not dead. And to be continued, and that's where this issue ends. Again, I enjoyed Calypso appearing here. Again, like I said, this was kind of my first appearance, if I remember right, my first crossover with Calypso, and Calypso's a good character. We'll talk more about Calypso in the coming months, and we'll get more of that later, but the next issue box tells us next issue is part 2 of the 4-part Star Shadow storyline. And here it says, why on earth would Lobo want to kill Calypso? It's not to be revealed on Earth, but it will be revealed next issue. And why would Starman risk his life in order to save Calypso? So again, it kind of spoils things for next issue, but we'll get to it next month. But anyways, that was Starman issue 42. I enjoyed it. Again, the artwork overall was good. There was that, now that I'm finally looking at it, that middle section of the book, the artwork was kind of off. And mainly was with Bruce Gordon. The rest of the artwork, in my opinion, was fine. There was maybe a little bit of a difference. Again, maybe someone that's more into art could tell you more of the differences. But to me, the main thing I saw that was different, in quotes, was the whole way Bruce Gordon looked. But that's enough for this issue. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'll be right back with Comic Comics Comic Rec.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
The Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour will be back after these messages.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Mike.
Man, it sure is great to be back from crisis to crisis after all this time. It's been a busy year for both of us.
For very different reasons.
But now we're ready to cover the post-Death and Return Superman stories.
Yeah, and we're about to start the books that came out in 1994, which means that we have so much to look forward to, like Bizarro's World.
The Battle for and Fall of Metropolis.
Superman Doomsday, Hunter, Prey.
Worlds Collide.
Well, you're looking forward to that one.
Oh, bite me.
0 Hour.
0 Month.
And right there at the end, we have Dead Again.
And don't forget the Elseworlds annuals as well.
Well, most of them anyway.
Yeah, some of those really did suck, don't they?
But From Crisis to Crisis is back. New episodes will drop on Thursday, just like before.
You can find the show at the Superman homepage, www.supermanhomepage.com, as well as at the Superman Podcast Network, which is at www.supermanpodcastnetwork.com.
And we also have a Facebook page that you can like by going to www.facebook.com/FromCrisisToCrisis, a Superman podcast.com. Is it .com on there? No, it's not. No .com. Forget that.
So From Crisis to Crisis is back, folks, and better than ever.
Well, I'm better than ever. You need some work.
No, shut up.
No, you 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 shut up.
From Crisis to Crisis,
You suck.
a Superman podcast, covering the post-crisis adventures of Superman, 1/2 month at a time. Every Thursday at www.supermanhomepage.com and www.fortressofbaileytude.com.
Justice League International, Blah Ha Ha Podcast, a new monthly show chronicling the adventures of the JLI era by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. We'll be going issue by issue in release order, tackling the core Justice League title, Justice League Europe, and the quarterly book. Along the way, we'll take time out for special episodes covering various spin-offs, cartoon appearances, the infamous TV pilot, and much more. So join me in an ever-changing roster of guest hosts as we celebrate your favorite JLI members, such as
Martian Manhunter,
Batman,
Dr. Fate,
Black Canary,
Fire,
Ice,
Maxwell Lord,
Oberon,
Captain Marvel,
Rocket Red,
Captain Atom,
Mr. Miracle,
Guy Gardner,
Booster Gold,
Blue Beetle,
Nort,
and many, many more. Justice League International, Blah Ha Ha Podcast, part of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Want to make something of it?
All right, our bags are packed and we got the snacks. It's time for the Longbox Crusade road trip to the Longbox Mobile, crew.
Shotgun.
Dang it.
Everyone buckled up. Here we go.
Well, now that the garage is empty, Gene will have more space to record episodes of LBC Irregulars, the indexing of the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes TV series.
Oh no! Did anyone remember to leave Clinton some food down in the basement? He's gonna need it as he makes more episodes of Fan Film Fridays, his ongoing look at online fan films.
Why are you speaking in such a scripted manner, Dark Web? Anyway, you can relax. I asked Rick, or was it Jeff? Who can remember? I asked the attic guy to come down from time to time to check in on Clinton. You know, take some breaks from recording Monday Movie Muckabout, his movie review show.
Weasel's call. Did you give Rick the key to the basement?
Key.
Sounds like LBC headquarters is in good hands, Death Probe.
Right you are, Cristados. Oh, Pat, can we stop off at KB Toy Store? I want to pick up some Transformers and G.I. Joes. They remind me of Transformers Chronicles and G.I. Joe Chronicles. Our show's going through the Marvel run of Transformers comics and the Devil's Due run of Joe comics.
Well, while you guys are doing that, we can also stop by a Blockbuster video and get some tapes to watch for Action Film Face Off. That's the show where we discuss 2 action films and have them duke it out to see which one is the episode champion.
Is that VHS or beta?
Either one is fine.
We've got a lot of stops to make, but if we can, let's squeeze in the Walden books and score some comics for us to talk about on Crusader Chronicles, the show where we move chronologically through the Amazing Spider-Man comics and include a bonus issue from the same release date as the Spidey recovery.
I will definitely keep an eye out for our Walden books. It'll come in handy for the pure Longbox Crusade episodes, our time capsule show where we take a deep dive into a randomly selected comic and talk about news, music, and movies and ads that were popular when the books were released. I'll also be on the lookout for our electronic boutique, EB, if you guys don't know the lingo back then, so we can get some more comic-related video games for us to discuss on Comics to Council Crusade.
Good thinking. If time permits, let's hit Circuit City. I need more positrons for our Pop Culture Posicast show, the one where we find all the good stuff in pop culture that others seem to poo-poo.
Positrons?
Shut up and go with it.
These old-timey, out-of-business store jokes doing anything for you folks? Well, if you like old-timey stuff, we also offer Saturday Matinee Theater, our look back at old TV shows, serials, and films that have kind of been forgotten.
I think that about covers it. We definitely want to be your road trip crew, folks.
Whether it's your commute to work or a road trip of your own, why not pass the time with us, your friends at the Long Box Crusade?
Once again, that's Long Box Crusade, available on all your finer podcatchers.
Good job, team. I'm getting hungry. Pat, stop at the next Kenny Rogers Roasters that you see.
Or Bennigan's.
Burger Chef!
Hope you enjoyed those promos. Now let's move on to
Copy Comics Comic Rack.
All right, so here are the books that were released. Cover date November of, actually not cover date, I'm sorry. These books were on sale in November of 1991. Again, these aren't all the books, these are just the ones that stood out to me or I want to bring special mention to. First up is the NAM 64, the NAM number 64. We always talk about the NAM over on my G.I. Joe podcast. Larry was involved with, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of it, and I believe Chuck Dixon did a lot of the writing on it, and I know Chuck is a reoccurring guest over on my friend David Finn's show, The Signal, so check that out. Moving on, this month there was also Action Comics 672. The cover states that it's got Lex Luthor 2 in it, so again, this was Lex Luthor after he, in quotes, died and his, in quotes, son came back. We find out later on that this is, spoilers for a 30, 40-year-old story, they actually took Luthor's brain and put in a cloned body. So, Superman, Action Comics 672. Also this month was Adventures of Superman 486. Again, for more on, Adventures of Superman has been written by Jerry Ordway, a fantastic creator. For more on Superman, check out Michael Bailey. He's got several shows. It all comes back to Superman, and specifically for this era of Superman, he's got From Crisis to Crisis, a Superman podcast. Moving on from there, Alpha Flight 104. Again, this was a Billy book, as I've mentioned. For those new to the podcast, Billy was a buddy of mine. He'd buy some, I'd buy some, and then some we'd both buy. And the ones I didn't buy that he bought, I'd read his, and I would share mine with him. So this is one of those books that Billy bought, and I read his. Also this month, continuing the round robin storyline over in Spider-Man, there was Amazing Spider-Man 357 and also 358. This month, The Punisher and Nova guest appeared over in Spider-Man. Again, I was loving Spider-Man at this point. Fantastic series. I know several friends on the networks across the podcasting sphere have Spider-Man podcast. I'm pretty sure the Palace of Glittering Delights talks about Spider-Man, if I'm not mistaken. So check that out. Moving on from there, Animal Man number 43. Again, as I said, I enjoyed Animal Man. This was when it started getting a little more weirder, and I wasn't liking as much as the earlier stuff, but Animal Man, I'll be covering the first couple years of that somewhere on my podcasting empire. Aquaman number 2. Again, for more on Aquaman, check out the Fire and Water Podcast Network, one of the godfathers of the show, if you will, one of my podcasting mentors, Robin Shag. Again, a handful of Archie books I'm not going to get into. Armageddon, Alien Agenda number 2. This was a sequel to Armageddon 2001. I talked about this over on Head Speaks quite a while back. Avengers 343. Again, I was enjoying the Avengers books at this time. Also this month was Avengers West Coast number 78, which had Wonder Man in it, who, not this version of Wonder Man, but Wonder Man has an upcoming series or something through Disney/Marvel. Barbie had several books out. Batman 473, artist Norm Brayfogle. Again, I know, I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but friend of the network, Ryan Daly, has a Batman podcast. Also this month was The Best of What If trade paperback. Again, I really enjoyed What If. It was a great series. This had some Spider-Man What Ifs in it, X-Men, Daredevil, Avengers, Fantastic Four. Had a little bit of everything in it. Again, I enjoyed What If. It was a great series of books. And this collected some of the better stories. So, also out this month, Black Canary number 3. It was a 4-issue miniseries. Over at Impact Comics, there was the Black Hood number 2. Also this month, over at Marvel, was Captain America 396. Back over at Impact Comics, there was the Comet number 6. Also this month, there was the Crossover Classics, the Marvel DC Collection trade paperback. This collected some of the old school DC Marvel crossovers. There was Spider-Man and Superman, Batman the Hulk, let me see, and the X-Men Teen Titans. There was actually 2 Spider-Man, Superman crossovers. And as I said, the X-Men Teen Titans, collected those crossovers in one book. Very nice. Daredevil 300. It's a double-size issue. I like the cover. This one's got Daredevil in the background standing over Kingpin. Very nice. I was reading Daredevil at this point. Also from Marvel, there was Darkhawk number 11. I've mentioned this book on this show before. Tombstone from Spider-Man fame shows up in this issue. Also this month was, over at DC, Deathstroke the Terminator, number 6. Again, it looks like Batman crosses over into this issue. There's Deathstroke on the cover with a big bat signal behind him. Again, part of the Teen Titans crossover universe, whatever you want to call it, being written by Marv Wolfman. He had his own little Titans universe going on, and Deathstroke was part of it. Again, just because I am Big Perv, and I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. Debbie Does Dallas number 8. It just cracks me up that Debbie Does Dallas had a comic book. It makes me laugh every time I see it. The Demon number 19. Also this month, Detective Comics 639. Jim Aparo artwork. Fantastic art. Also this month, I'll mention Disney's Beauty and the Beast number 1. I mentioned that because, again, as I talked about before, my daughter used to do the school plays when she was younger, and one year she did Beauty and the Beast. She had 2 parts in that. One play she did Beauty, and another one, no, she didn't do the Beast. She did Lemire, the candlestick, so very nice. So that one holds a special place. Also, Disney's The Little Mermaid Limited Series number 1. I mentioned that again because my daughter was going to play Ursula the year of COVID, but they shut down the week of the play, unfortunately. But yeah, she was going to play Ursula. So again, those, they're not aimed at me. Again, I've been a Disney fan, but the Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, and all that's not really my cup of tea. But they hold a special place in my heart because my daughter did the school plays for them. So Dr. Fate number 5. I'm sorry, number 5. Number 35. Another book I want to, I may talk about Dr. Fate at some point. I enjoyed the first couple years of that one. Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, number 37. Doom Patrol, number 50, of the HBO Max TV series. Also this month, Elongated Man, number 1. He had a 4-issue miniseries. I enjoyed that. That was pretty good. Also this month, another Billy book. I think I started picking it up at some point, but I think this was still a Billy book. Excalibur, number 46. Part of the Mutant Universe. Also this month was Fantastic Four 360. This was a series I was picking up. Again, love some Fantastic Four. Thought it was great. Also this month was The Flash 58. This was being written by William Messner Loebs. This was the Wally West Flash. Also this month from Impact was The Fly, number 5. Back over at Marvel, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 120. Again, for more on G.I. Joe, check out my other shows on this network, G.I. Joe, A Real American Headcast. Sticking with Marvel, we had Ghost Rider number 21, plus the Resurrected trade paperback. Moving back over to DC for a moment, Green Lantern number 55. For more on Green Lantern, check out the Warlord Worlds podcast, a great show by Darren and Ruth Sutherland. Also of DC, there was Green Lantern number 20. Back over at Marvel, there was Guardians of the Galaxy number 20, As I've talked about, this was the Guardians of the Galaxy I wanted, the futuristic version. Has Vance Astro as Major Victory holding up Captain America's shield. Fantastic cover, fantastic book. Loved Guardians of the Galaxy. DC had Hawkworld number 19. As I've talked about, this is the revamping of Hawkman in the current DC continuity. Hellblazer number 49. As I've talked about, Hellblazer was a friend of mine, Scott Kessler. He read that one. He was a big fan of Hellblazer, and I read some of his books later on. It's not a bad story. I enjoyed that. Incredible Hulk 389. This has Man-Thing in it. I'm going to resist making any giant-size Man-Thing jokes at this point. But moving on from that, there was Iron Man 276. And back at Impact Studios, or Impact Comics, there was Jaguar number 6. I'll mention this one just for my buddy Jared Albrecht, James Bond Jr., number 1. I didn't buy that one, but I know Jared's a big James Bond fan. I'll have to ask if you ever read that one. But moving on from there, there's some Jughead books. Justice League of America number 58, part of the Breakdown storyline. This had Lobo, Despero, and it shows apparently they take on the Justice League. This was when the Bwahaha League was coming to an end before they revamped it. Also part of Breakdowns, there was Justice League Europe number 33. Moving on from there, we had Legion number 92, Legion 92, number 35. Again, as I talked about, I enjoyed the Legion book. That was a good series. Alan Grant, Barry Kitson, fantastic. Back over at Impact, there was Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 7, while DC gave us Legends of the Dark Knight 25. Also this month from DC Comics, there was Legion of Superheroes number 25. As I said, this was part of the 5 years Legion. But this cover, I forget the storyline offhand, but this cover had the Legion in their regular superhero uniforms. Normally there were a lot less costumes in this book. Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special number 1. Mark Spector Moon Knight number 34. I enjoyed Moon Knight. I was reading the book, and he was somewhat of a recent Disney Plus TV series. Also this month, Marvel Age number 108. Again, I would pick that one up occasionally, but after that, there's Marvel Comics Presents 93 and 94. This was the bi-weekly Wolverine series, basically. That also was an anthology book. I had several other stories along with Wolverines in it. This month, we also saw the Marvel Holiday Special number 1, along with Marvel Superheroes number 8. There was also this month, Mighty Thor number 442. I was buying Thor at this point. I remember this one. This had the return of Don Blake and also Beta Ray Bill. Also this month, not only that, but there was also 443 with more guest stars. This one has the Silver Surfer and Doctor Strange, apparently. Again, Thor, as I've said, is an on and off book. Sometimes I'd buy it, sometimes I'd enjoy it, sometimes I wouldn't enjoy it so much I'd stop. Namor, the Submariner number 22 came out this month. Back over at DC, we had New Titans number 82, part of the Titans Hunt storyline by Marv Wolfman and penciled by Tom Grummett. I really enjoyed the Titans Hunt, and again, as I've said before, I'll plan on covering at least the first 100 issues or so of the Teen Titans, New Titans, Teen Titans somewhere. New Warriors number 19. Again, I enjoyed this book. It was a younger generation of Marvel characters. Again, for more on the New Warriors, I know Jared Albrecht and Delve in the Dark Web has a show over on the Long Box Crusade talking about the New Warriors. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 31. Nightmare on Elm Street number 3. Again, I had some of those issues of Nightmare on Elm Street. The official handbook of the Marvel Universe Master Edition number 14. The original Ghost Rider Rides Again number 7 came out this month. Again, that was a reprint book. I had that series. It was like a 7 or 8 issue limited series, reprinting some old Ghost Rider stories. I had those. I didn't buy these, but there was a couple Planet of the Apes. There's Planet of the Apes 18, Planet of the Apes, Blood of the Apes, number 1. Predator had a book out. Punisher number 58 and 59, which I was buying. Punisher War Journal number 38. Again, big Punisher fan at that time. Related to my Starbright Project podcast, there was Quantum Leap number 2. I have had these. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the series, the novels, everything Quantum Leap. For more on Quantum Leap, check out the Starbright Project here on the Headcast Network. Currently, the show's on hiatus while I figure out what we're doing and get some time to work on some episodes, but I've got several episodes you can listen to out there. Quasar number 30, Ragman number 4. I didn't buy this one, but there was The Real Ghostbusters number 1. Again, I enjoyed the movies. I did pick up the comics, but there was also some Marvel UK ones. Again, didn't get those. Also this month, there was Robin 2, number 2, his second miniseries. Had several covers for that one. Also Robin 2, number 3 came out this month. RoboCop number 23 came out. Again, I wasn't buying RoboCop, but I enjoyed the movie, so I figured I'd mention it. Saved by the Bell Holiday Special number 1. I don't think I picked this up, but I was enjoying the TV show. Sensational She-Hulk 35. Again, I love this book, and again, this book to me is very much in line with the recent Disney Plus TV show. Same kind of attitude, if you will. Silver Surfer 61 and Sleepwalker number 8. Both over at Marvel, and Sleepwalker, he fights Deathlock. I couldn't read the name. Deathlock. Spectacular Spider-Man 184 with the Green Goblin in it. Fantastic story. Spider-Man number 18 has Ghost Rider. It's the Revenge of the Sinister Six. Also this month, there were some Star Trek books. Starman number 42, which we talked about this very episode. Suicide Squad number 60. So again, for more on Suicide Squad, check out my other show, one of my other shows, Task Force X. I should be coming up to this book soon if I haven't done it yet. I'm just looking at the cover. Yeah, I believe I should be talking about this one soon. Superman number 63 has an appearance of Aquaman in it by Dan Jurgens. Also Superman, the Man of Steel number 7. Also this month, there was a Terminator Within number 1. I mentioned that because I had that one. In fact, I still may have that one. For my buddy over in Australia, Hayden, there was a Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends number 107 and 108 from Marvel UK books. Toxic Avenger number 10, upcoming movie. Also this month, Twilight Zone number 1. I had some of those. Uncanny X-Men 284 came out this month. Also there was War of the Gods number 4. I talked about this one here recently, here and over on Task Force X. Also this month from Impact Comics, The Web number 5. Speaking of Web, there was Web of Spider-Man number 84. I mentioned earlier What If number 33, with What If the Phoenix Rose Again. Love What If, great series. What The number 16. Who's Who in the DC Universe number 15. This was the loose leaf binder version. This one was delving into DC's realm of dark fantasy. Looks like it has the Doom Patrol in this issue. Again, for more on Who's Who, check out the Who's Who in the DC Universe podcast by friends of the network, Rob Kelly and the Irredeemable Shag. I will mention Wizard, the Guide to Comics number 4. I was buying that. Wolverine number 50. This had a die-cut cover. Looks like the claws were slashing the cover of the magazine, or the comic. Wonder Man number 5. Speaking of Wonder Woman number 61. X-Factor 74. X-Force 6. X-Men 4. And finally, X-Men Classic number 67. That was a reprint book. This one reprinted Uncanny X-Men 163. But those were the books that came out on sale November of 1991. Let me know what you think. Did I miss anything you liked? Or do you like any of the picks I've mentioned? Send me an email to coppercomics@headspeaks.com. But that's going to do it for this episode. Join us next month when we carry on with the final storyline of Starman. Until then, Starhunters, keep looking to the stars.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour. Please join us next month for another great, fantastic episode as we cover another issue of the Will Payton Starman series and the Mark Shaw Manhunter series. Keep in mind that these podcasts are not affiliated or endorsed by DC Comics. I'm just a fanboy who loves these comics and wants to spread these love with everyone else out there and just talk about them.
Again, you can email us at smah@headspeaks.com, or you can go to our blog, which is at starman-manhunter.headspeaks.com. You can also go to the Facebook page at facebook.com/Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour. No spaces, all one word. But once again, thank you very much for joining us. Until next episode, this is Aaron Moss saying, see you in the funny pages.